Does Europol have a clear idea of the extent of cigarette smuggling in Europe?
Well, we use figures from the Sun report, which is compiled by KPMG. The scale would be about 53 billion cigarettes as a volume, which is equivalent to around about 5,300 containers full. So that's kind of the scale of it. Works out to around about just under 10% of all the cigarettes that are consumed in Europe.
You're speaking today at the Global Tobacco and Nicotine Forum. Can you estimate how much smuggling costs the governments in lost revenue, but also can you estimate how much it costs the companies?
Again, the Sun report estimates that the revenue loss from counterfeit and contraband would be about 11.3 billion euros, and that's 2015 figure.
Where are these cigarettes coming from?
Well, we have genuine product leaking out of the supply chain from the big tobacco manufacturers, but there's also illicit whites, which are cigarettes which have a local market but don't have a license to be sold elsewhere and are smuggled. And there's also counterfeit and organised crime groups making their own.
Who benefits from these sales?
Well, it's pure organised crime, but also there was a report by the UN Security Council which linked the funds from tobacco being used by terrorist organisations.
What are the penalties like for being caught?
Well, they vary considerably within Europe, which is a particular problem. If they were standardised or a minimum standard, it would greatly help our work. But you do see career criminals moving from areas like drugs to excise fraud because the penalties are so much lighter, but the profits are very comparable.
And who are the buyers?
The buyers are the general public. I don't think they see their purchase of cigarettes, which are obviously from a non-legitimate source because they're cheaper or they're not from a shop or whatever. So that's where it goes to, and I don't think they see themselves as funding organised crime. It's almost like getting one over on the government because of the high taxes.
So would you say that smuggling is linked to the level of taxation on cigarettes?
I think that's definitely one of the effects as well, because if you have very high taxes, you tend to people would look for a cheaper alternative. But there's public perception. I don't think the public realise that they are funding organised crime by buying from these sources.
Which countries would you say have been the most effective in combating this illicit trade?
Well, there's something called the EU Law Enforcement Policy Cycle, and under that are a number of projects which law enforcement are working to combat the problem. Now, the HMRC is one of the countries that leads on that, but we do a lot of work with the Polish police and the Hungarian tax authorities as well, so they're very effective partners to work with.